So, should we go electric?
I think we should go electrified with Toyota.
Electrified?
Electrified means options. Yes, we could go all electric with a Toyota BZ4X, but then there are hybrids like Grand Highlander, or we could do something in between like a RAV4 plug-in hybrid.
So, Toyota is electrified diversified?
Yup, and with more options for reducing carbon emissions, the closer we all get to Toyota's Beyond Zero vision for the future.
Exactly how much coffee have you had this morning?
Learn more about our Beyond Zero vision for the future at toyota.com/Beyond Zero.
Who doesn't love getting something for free? Labor Day deals have arrived at the Home Depot, and right now you can get a free Milwaukee 18-volt extended capacity battery, $159 value, when you buy a select tool. Get longer runtime and more battery life so you can power all your fall projects. Shop Labor Day deals and get a free battery when you buy a select tool at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Limit 1 per transaction. Exclusions apply. Full eligible tool list in-store and online.
Whether it's game day, movie night, or just a busy day, it's always time for Papa Murphy's. And now you can get any medium 2-topping pizza for just $6.99. That's right, the whole family can get exactly what they want any day of the week for any occasion. Any toppings, any sauce, only $6.99. Now that's meaty yum. If only everything else in life was like our deal. Order any medium 2-topping pizza for just $6.99 at papamurphys.com.
Make this new school year an opportunity for your kids to learn important life skills with Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app for families where kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely, while parents keep an eye on kids' money habits. Greenlight also helps families get into their fall routine with a chores feature that lets parents assign chores and pay kids allowance when they check them off. Get your first month free at greenlight.com/iHeart. greenlight.com/iHeart.
This is Dr. Laurie Santos from the Happiness Lab. Many people have questions about how to improve levels of happiness. Living a healthy lifestyle is one sure way of increasing happiness. And a good place to start is with your oral health. Just a few small changes to your oral care routine, such as changing your toothpaste to Colgate Total, can lead to beneficial changes in your oral health. Colgate Total helps stop oral health problems like gingivitis and cavities before they start, because preventing oral health problems is a lot easier than treating them. Be dentist ready and get Colgate Total at shop.colgate.com/total.
Episode 435, How Jill Paid Off $56,000 of debt over 7 years.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast, where you'll learn to save money, embrace simplicity, and live a richer life. Here are your hosts, Jen and Jill.
Welcome to Frugal Friends podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Jill.
And today we are celebrating Jill's 35th birthday by re-airing our episode where I interviewed her about her debt payoff journey.
What a day that was. This was how many years ago?
About
2 years ago that we talked about this. And yeah, we recorded an episode of you, your debt payoff story, then myself interviewing each other. The story remains the same. One thing that's curious to me is like how as more time passes, you look back on these experiences and new things come to light or learnings come from it. I think that I would probably say different things today than I said 2 years ago, but at the same time, I think relevant for my life stage then. So worth the replay so you can kind of understand what the actual journey was. And then we'll give a little recap at the end.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did Debt-Free Summer this year. We aired 10 debt-free stories from our listeners. And those were recorded about 18 months ago. And so I think it's important that we don't just hear from personal finance experts who had their debt payoff journey 5+ years ago. We're in a different financial economic landscape. And B, over time, your perspective about your debt payoff or any goal you've reached, your perspective changes about your own story. And sometimes that's for the better. Sometimes you gain more perspective in some areas and then other parts you forget. So I think it's always good to and I think this is an encouragement that if you have accomplished something very recently and maybe you don't feel like an expert enough to share or to invest in someone's life with your knowledge, I hope you feel encouraged and responsible to show up in the capacity that you're at, because we need to be sharing our stories, whether we are just out of the thick of it, whether we're a couple years out or we're many decades out, with the mindset that our perspective is also dependent on where we're at in the journey. So embracing that perspective and not diminishing our accomplishments or overinflating our accomplishments.
Yeah, I think it's just a good reminder, and hopefully gives you a glimpse into some of like what I went through, what Jen went through in our debt payoff, and is inspirational and informative. So we're excited to replay this for you.
Yes, but first, this episode is brought to you by birthday candles. Candles on a cake. And Jill's got a lot of them, guys. So many that they just feel so haphazardly put on her small cake. And really, we wish they had been put on there with a little bit more organization. And that's why we think that our birthday cake for Jill should have gone to the Go HQ Summit. The Go HQ Summit is a free online event, and you can register now at frugalfriendspodcast.com/GoHQ. It's GOHQ. It's not taking place until September 9th, and it's going on that week. During that week, you're going to learn organizational tips, tactics, strategies across all areas of your life. So yes, home organization, planning organization, meal planning, wardrobe and fashion organization, home cleaning, decluttering, paper piles, stuff like that, organizing your digital life, organizing your finances. Obviously, we are speaking at the Go HQ Summit, and that is squarely where we are. And then also like making time for self-care. So there are going to be over 100 organizing experts at this event. So please definitely head to frugalfriendspodcast.com/GoHQ, especially if you are a human and not a cake, because you will definitely want to glean all the wisdom from these experts that are speaking.
Dead, right? D-E-D, Jen. The way that you effortlessly wove in
birthday.
Thank you, my chaotic cake into the
Your
Go
chaotic
HQ
cake
Summit. That was lovely. Yeah,
Yes.
my birthday was 2 days ago. Here we are celebrating with a replay of my debt payoff journey. Let's get into it.
So Jill, first question for you. How much debt did you pay off? What was it from? And what were you making roughly while you paid off? Because it did take you quite some time. And I know your income changed throughout it.
Yeah, sure. So just to give a little bit of an overview, we began paying off debt in 2013, and we made our final payment on our debt in February 2020, just before the pandemic. I mean, what a silver
at our
lining.
at our house.
Yes, we were parked in our trailer in your backyard and made our final debt payoff, and we celebrated, which was so great. So for those of you who aren't doing math in your head right now, that's 7 years to pay off debt. And it was a combination of a few different types of debt. And I will say this, we collected debt throughout our debt payoff. That was intentional, and it has led to a lot of the things that we can now enjoy. We don't want to continue collecting debt, but it was necessary for our journey. So I just want to make that kind of distinction. It wasn't as if we had this experience where suddenly I realize my finances and I'm going to get everything in order. I was very aware, but trying to be creative with how do I get at my financial goals in a way that feels good to me and will create as much freedom as possible in the least amount of time as possible. So one of the debts was a $32,000 student loan debt. And then the other debts were mostly private loans for our motorhome at one point, our trailer at another point, and a vehicle for Eric's business at another point. So essentially vehicles, but those were also houses for us. Two of those three vehicles were also homes. So that was the combination of that $56,000 of debt. When Eric and I got married, I was actually still in college. I was wrapping up my undergrad degree. So we got married very, very low income. He was working for himself. He had his own electrical business, lived off of that income. Then when I graduated, I of course graduated with debt. Thank you, university system, higher education, and went right into the social work field, making $26,000 a year. To me, I knew it was low, but it was something. I was so accustomed to not having money. I mean, I'm coming out of college, didn't have a lot of money, so I was pleased to have a regular paycheck. But $26,000 even 10 years ago, that was below poverty line. That was not enough to even cover the basics. So frugality was necessary for me just because of my circumstances. And Eric had variable income. He was still just starting out his business. So I would say our take-home pay combined was low 30s. So to have $32,000 of school loan debt felt like so much. I know in some ways it's peanuts compared to what students are graduating with these days. But at the time, that was above my annual salary. So that it really did feel like a lot. And I knew I wanted it gone. But of course, like we said, we had other debts that we had. So we went from making about within those 7 years, a combined $30,000 to there were years when we probably saw a combined $60,000, but pretty low income through those 7 years of debt payoff as far as a combined income goes.
Yeah. How did Eric feel like about the debt? Because he didn't have any student loans or anything. And at that point, like you hadn't acquired an RV or trailer or anything. So like what was his kind of response? Or
I can't totally speak for him, but I'll try. I'll do it. I'll try. I think this is going to sound so conceited. I think he was just so on board for like the whole package. the package being me. I don't know. Yeah. I'm sure he would have preferred that I didn't have debt, but I think it was peripheral to the life that we wanted to have together. And he was on board with, I want to help you pay this off. I think he was angry at the college system and like, why is this a thing? But forever and always, and this will probably come out as we go through this story, we've both been so supportive of each other's endeavors. And I think that is some of the reason behind our unusual journey throughout debt freedom and some of our non-traditional housing situations. So much of us choosing that was to support one another in our endeavors, but in a way that created space and freedom for us as a couple. So he was on board for paying it off, equally didn't like it, didn't blame me for it, was glad that I was able to pursue the degree that I wanted, was able to put that degree into action and care for the populations that were important to me. And thankfully, he didn't have any he didn't have any debt. He didn't go to undergrad. So it was just that we had to pay off. So he was on board.
Yeah. And you also cash flowed your master's degree during the 7 years.
Yes, that was not a debt that we acquired. And that was one of my parameters. I said to myself and others, if I were to go back to get my master's, because it was lingering for me within the field of social work, it's a good idea. I think it's always a good idea to expand your skill set and experience and understanding. And certainly within this field, it's helpful. So it was always on my radar, but I said to myself and others, I will not get my master's if it means me going into debt for it. It just was I hate it. I abhorred the feeling of owing tens of thousands of dollars. And thankfully, we were able to make that happen. So that happened in 2018, that we cash flowed my master's degree. And we were able to do that because we were living in a motorhome at the time.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about the motorhome and the tree. Let's talk about all of the non-traditional methods you use to not only pay off your debt, but also cash flow a master's degree.
Yeah. So the idea first began, and it's neat because Eric and I just celebrated 10 years of marriage, and we went away on a really beautiful vacation, and we were able to process. We kind of wanted to look at big picture of our lives over the last 10 years. And I even talked with him about this. So it is fresh in my mind. How did we decide to do that? It makes sense now just looking back. Oh yeah, we did motorhomes, but how in the world did that even become a thing? And it really was for low cost living. A lot of people, when we say we lived in a trailer or a mobile home, they think, oh, you must have traveled the world. You did not the world, you traveled the nation. You did all these things. And that wasn't the reason for it. I recall Eric and I were living in an apartment at the time, and we went on a vacation with his family, and we were at a lake and rented a pontoon boat. And he and his dad were looking at Facebook Marketplace for other boats. And within his Facebook Marketplace boat search, like, oh, could we ever buy a boat and fix it up and have something fun to do as a family? He came across a motorhome and was scrolling through and kind of thinking, oh, that'd be like a fun vacation and a fun way to camp. And then kept looking at it and saying, this has everything you need. We could actually live in one of these. And I had already been floating the idea of a master's degree, wanting a master's degree, but looking at our finances and saying, I couldn't do that. I couldn't get my master's degree and not go into further debt. There is just no money for this. And not to mention, if I get my master's degree, I'm going to have to really scale back with work. I'm not going to have much time to even be earning income while I'm spending money. And so that's when the idea just kind of set in of, let's see if we could do that. And for Eric and I, we do move quickly. When we say something and we kind of get the idea in our head, then like we jump. So I probably within 2 weeks of that Facebook Marketplace motorhome, we had a motorhome and we were beginning to renovate it and making moves to moving into it. And so again, for the low cost of living, and it really did provide that for us. And I will say what actually allowed for us to cash flow the masters was the eventual sale of that motorhome. So living in it provided us as a place to live without high rent or utilities or really any of the other like expenses of time and resources, which was amazing, just the simple life. But then we renovated it and we were able to sell it at a profit, which is really what allowed us to be able to do that. And we were able to sell it. And another unusual living experience that we had was we house sat in a log cabin for a couple who was near retirement, but they wanted to keep their home, but there was an opportunity within his work to be able to go to Ireland, and they didn't want the hassle of tenants, but they wanted someone to care for their home. So we were able to live there, sell our motor home, and not have living expenses and pay for my master's degree. So the stars aligned in a lot of ways, but we also were moving and shaking. We were running our own businesses in the background of me getting my master's and really putting ourselves out there for, does anyone have things that we can do in a non-traditional kind of creative way? So it is attainable, I think, for people, but you do have to be a specific type of person to be able to live in someone else's home for a year and all that can come with that.
Yeah, you do have to put yourself in a certain position in order to, like, I think the house sitting one was kind of like a lucky break. You just like right place at right time, but you have to put yourself in that right place at that right time in order to get lucky. And so there are so many unique stories out there that are only stories because the people put themselves in a position to be able to take advantage of an opportunity that came up. And so maybe house sitting isn't an opportunity that comes up for you if you're listening to this, but the more you put yourself in non-traditional situations, the more non-traditional opportunities come up for you to take advantage of.
And thankfully, the internet does provide a lot of those types of opportunities. Like, yes, this was an opportunity within our network, but there are also all sorts of people looking for house sitters for various degrees of amounts of time that they're away for. So this could also be searched out. You don't have to wait for it to fall in your lap.
Yeah. What were some of the logistics to living in the RV and then the trailer? So like, where did you park? How much did it cost? Like, what was the cost of the RV compared to what you sold it for? Stuff like that.
Sure. Parking RVs is one of the most challenging aspects of living in a motorhome or a trailer. And so whenever someone asks us about this and they're tossing around the idea, my recommendation is know where you're going to park it first before you sink thousands or tens of thousands of dollars into this. Have a place to put it. Thankfully, we were able to find that, but I'm not going to say that that was easy or that we didn't have to move around a bit to make that possible for ourselves. I think people are becoming more and more open to having RVs parked on their property, but National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation did not give a great look for RVers. And I think a lot of people have that image in their head of you're going to do what and you're going to live in it and you're not just going to camp and where does your waste go? And I don't think I want it. But thankfully we had enough other non-traditional thinking friends and even people on the internet who were willing to let us park on their property. So we did a variety. We had our trailer or RV parked at friends' houses at some points for short terms of time. We had it parked in your backyard for a short period of time. There are some RV parks that would allow year-round rental spots that you can have. That's not always the most cost effective. And especially if you're like us who lived in the north, usually you can only find a space for 6 to 8 months out of the year. You got to go someplace else for the winter. So those are some of the barriers. But one of the best situations that we ended up finding when we were living in our trailer was we rented out an office space, which was a previous barn that was renovated to be an office on someone's property in the farmland of the suburbs of Philadelphia. And they just happened to be open enough with us to bowl. I don't know. They chose to allow us to park on their property, which was amazing. So we both rented out the office space because both Eric and I worked remotely. And then we were also able to park our trailer on their property so we could live there and work there. And very unusual. I think it was great that they were open to that. But things like that we've been able to find. And I would say Facebook Marketplace was helpful for us in identifying places that we could park the motorhome and be able to meet with people and chat with them and explain to them what we're doing, why we're doing it, the type of people that we are. We're not going to be partying. We're not going to be up late at night. We're going to be doing weird stuff on your property. Like we promise, we're professional adults, but this is what we're doing. And would you be willing to let us like have your hose in your backyard?
Yes. So what would you say the monthly cost was for like living in an RV?
That's really going to depend, but I'll give a generalization. So we paid anywhere from $100 to $1,000 to park our trailer monthly. The higher end of that spectrum was, of course, when we were at the office space where we were both renting an office and we had our motorhome parked there. So for us, that was great because we were, again, running our own businesses. So a lot of that rental could be a business write-off. And so we kind of more so factored that our lot rent was maybe more so around $300. So let's say $300. Utilities were never more than $100 if you're talking water and electric, that kind of thing. And then, of course, whatever you're going to spend on food and the rest of your life. But I would say all in all, you're talking under $500 a month to be able to live in a tiny home like that, just because it is smaller. What you have to heat and cool and utilize is much less. That said, the amount of time that it took to upkeep a tiny home, and especially a motorhome in the winter where you actually have to be concerned about pipes freezing, it did take more time and energy and know-how and problem solving than I think the average person realizes. Mm-hmm. It's not for the faint of heart. I wouldn't recommend just anybody do it. And to be honest, I don't know that I would have done it on my own if it weren't for Eric. He had a lot of that know-how, ability to fix things in the middle of the night, problem solve what might be going wrong with the AC unit or this or that. So there are things to consider with it. At the end of the day, I'm so pleased for the experience, glad we had it. But that is more so the cost, I would say, is the cost of time and in repairs and problem solving than necessarily the finances. So if someone's up for that challenge, then it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah. And the cost of the actual trailer and RV were offset by the profit you made because you did renovate the RV and the trailer. They were beautiful.
Thanks, Jen.
And from where they were to like where they ended up, like you were able to sell for a profit because of the cost effective things that you put into it.
Right.
So that really did offset it.
And that was the nice thing, even though it's a vehicle, which is usually a depreciating asset, not only were we able to make a profit on it, but obviously recoup what we had initially paid and all of the money that we put into it for renovation. So it almost, in some ways, for both of the times that we did it in the RV and the trailer, it almost felt like a little savings account for us.
Yeah.
Knowing that we're going to get all of this money back and then some when we sell it. And so on the first RV that we had, I want to say that we made a profit of about $8,000. And on the trailer, we made a profit of a little over $10,000.
Awesome.
And that's not to mention that, I mean, that's the profit. So we also recouped all of the money that we had put into it. And so when we sold the RV, that paid for my master's degree. And when we sold the trailer, that was our down payment on our home here in St. Petersburg.
Whether it's game day, movie night, or just a busy day, it's always time for Papa Murphy's. And now you can get any medium 2-topping pizza for just $6.99. That's right. The whole family can get exactly what they want any day of the week for any occasion. Any toppings, any sauce, only $6.99. Now that's meaty yum. If only everything else in life was like our deal. Order any medium 2-topping pizza for just $6.99 at papamurphys.com.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets.
With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. So you can say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages, and get a premium wireless plan starting at just $15 a month.
To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/frugal. That's mintmobile.com/frugal. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/frugal.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Are you tired of your scented cleaning products smelling and cleaning like meh? Then it's time for an upgrade with the power of Clorox Scentiva. With an uplifting scent that smells like coconut, Clorox Scentiva gives you powerful clean like Clorox, but a feeling like being transported to a tropical island retreat. Imagine putting your phone on Do Not Disturb, tuning out all the constant, just the feeling of warm sand in between your toes and a fruity drink in your hand. The ones with the little umbrella. Refresh your home to feel like an all-inclusive vacation by getting Clorox Scentiva. Also available in grapefruit and lavender scents at a nearby retail store.
You hear more and more about identity theft in the news every day. Maybe that's because so much of your personal information is out of your control. Like your insurance provider that has your social security number and your favorite retailer that has your payment details. If they get breached, your information is vulnerable. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second for identity threats. If your identity is stolen, a LifeLock US-based restoration specialist will help solve identity theft issues on your behalf, guaranteed, or your money back. Plus, all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, meaning LifeLock will reimburse you up to the limits of your plan if you lose money due to identity theft. You might not be able to control how others handle your personal information, but you can help protect it with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/iHeart. That's 40% off your first year at LifeLock.com/iHeart. Terms apply.
So, should we go electric?
I think we should go electrified with Toyota.
Electrified?
Electrified means options. Yes, we could go all electric with the Toyota BZ4X, but then there are hybrids like Grand Highlander, or we could do something in between like a RAV4 plug-in hybrid.
So, Toyota is electrified diversified?
Yup, and with more options for reducing carbon emissions, the closer we all get to Toyota's Beyond Zero vision for the future.
Exactly how much coffee have you had this morning?
Learn more about our Beyond Zero vision for the future at toyota.com/Beyond Zero.
Okay, so we could talk about this all day, but we do have a few episodes on Jill's experience RVing and helping people figure out if it's right for them. So that's episode 130, how to live in an RV or motorhome, and then episode 78, which is how to save money by living in an RV. So definitely check those out if you want to know more. But I want to know, do you have any tips for listeners who may be considering other forms of tiny living to save money or alternative housing?
I would say do your research. So whether that's reading books, listening to podcasts, watching vloggers, that was really helpful for Eric and I. We chose the vlogging route. I like visuals. So following people who are already doing what you're doing and hopefully finding the people who are going to be honest with you about it. Thankfully, a lot of social media can be quite transparent these days. So seeing if the ins and outs of what you think is going to be good still appeals to you. And even if you can, talk with people who are already doing it. Thankfully, a lot of people have taken advantage of Eric and I in that way. Like, hey, we're thinking about doing XYZ, and we have opinions on it. People can make their own choices, certainly, but I will be very forthright with you about the pros and the cons of tiny living. And so, again, just knowing what that lifestyle is like, what it's going to require of you, the true costs. I think sometimes we can glamorize whatever our next step is going to be, but really sitting down and pricing it out and making sure that you're going to experience the savings that you desire to see, that you've got the skill set to be able to do that, or at least the willingness, time, energy to learn how to do that thing. I would not recommend tiny living in the north with exposed pipes if you're not willing to be up at 3 a.m. heat wrapping it. Or, have an alternative place to stay if your pipes do freeze, that kind of thing. And then if there's a way to be able to practice it, we have heard a lot of stories of people who think that this is a lifestyle for them. They change their entire life circumstances, sell everything, move into an RV and last for a month. And then they've got to go refigure out life again. So if, RV life is specifically what you're considering, rent one, live in one, or borrow a friend's and see if you can stay in it, pay them to stay in it for a couple of weeks and really get a feel for if it's a lifestyle you're actually going to enjoy. Sometimes our idealized self is not the same as our actual self. So try it on for size.
So wise. I love that. Yes. And I want to touch on a few more non-traditional things you did to pay off debt. You had very non-traditional side hustles that I've never heard of any other people doing. Like my favorite one was that you were bartenders at weddings and DJs. What are some of the other side hustles you've done over the years to just bring in extra cash?
So Eric and I were DJs first and did that together. He would do the music, I would MC. Then we had a renovations business together. So he not only did he have his own electrical business in the past, but he is skilled at all of the trades. So he did a lot of knew how to do a lot of different construction work types of things.
Marry rich or marry capable?
And I'm married capable. And you can make money with capable too. So get the best of both worlds if you can. And I realized that I really enjoy working with my hands as well. I'm not as much of a skilled laborer as Eric is, but I can do a lot of the finish work, the painting, the caulking, the nail filling, the design, although he's good at that too. So, and we enjoy working together. So we did that for a time. And that was actually the side hustle while I was in my master's program full time. That allowed me the flexibility, but still being able to make some money. And then we were bartenders. We built our own portable bar and created cocktails around different people's weddings and brought our portable bar and served up drinks and had a blast with that too. And then Frugal Friends. I mean, honestly, Frugal Friends has been a side hustle very quickly,
it is still becoming a side hustle.
Bigger than what a typical side hustle would be. But these are some of the things. And I think they sound like they span the gamut, but really it has. Oh, there was also a time that I sold plants. It was a short little season, but I'm like, his mom had a ton of plants on her property and she was constantly looking to give them away. And I enjoyed plants. And so there was a season where I repotted plants and put them on a trailer in a front yard alongside the road.
Wow.
I just like whatever I could see as low hanging fruit to bring in money. And so despite the fact that it's maybe a lot of variety, it really had to do with what do we see in our tool belt? What's already in our hands? What's the low hanging fruit? And so for the DJing, Eric already had music equipment because he's a musician. And so this is an easy thing to do. We have weekends available, and yet it still allows us to be together because that we enjoy being together, and our work lives took us apart from each other a lot, but yet we needed increased income. So that was a really nice blend for us to have fun, party, play music, make money, be together, and have a side hustle. And then, with the renovations, that's a skill set we have. And the bartending, I mean, it's a skill, it's a skill set we have.
Yeah.
we basically just like to party, and how can we make money doing that? So I think as far as if there's a tip somewhere in there, it's we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It doesn't have to be, what is someone else doing? How can I do that same thing? Just what's in your hand already? What are you good at? What do you enjoy doing? What feels life-giving? What is something you don't mind doing? Might even spur you on in your day-to-day 9-to-5 job, provides an outlet that is completely separate from what you do. It doesn't always have to be congruent to what your 9-to-5 is. It could provide a different look at your personhood. And that's what those things were. Completely separate from social work and trauma. It was completely separate.
Absolutely. I think that's so wise, is to be paying attention enough to see what's already in front of you. And you did that with your living situations, with your expenses. You did it with your income. You were just always aware of how can I get creative with what's available. And you were so successful because of it.
Yeah.
So knowing that, if you had to do it all over again, would you change anything?
It's been such a journey. And thankfully, I don't live with regret. I'm pleased and grateful for that there's nothing that I would look back on and say, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Or I think every experience that I've had has lended itself to the next. And I have gained an incredible skill set and variety of experiences in my life. And it feels full and rich. And so I'm grateful for that. That said, if there were anything that I might change or maybe would have said to myself in the past, again, not a regret, but a message to my younger self and maybe anybody else who's listening. I do wish that I had gotten a hold of the permission earlier on that I had to make changes in the work that I set my hands to or what might be available to me, the freedom and permission to think outside the box in what I'm currently doing. I think very specifically to that first job that I had out of college. It was actually the internship that I had that they just hired me on, and I kept going with it. And that felt simple to me. And it was very, very difficult, for lack of a better word. And I'm grateful for that experience. I do think it formed me in a lot of ways, but I also think I could have stepped out sooner if I had known the freedom, permission that was available to me. I felt stuck. I felt trapped. I felt like I couldn't do anything different. And this is what my finances are going to look like for the rest of my life. Like, how could I possibly leave? I worked at a residential facility for adolescents. And so what mainly kept me there was my heart for these kids. I was very angry at the system, but the kids kept me there. And so there's a tension in that, certainly. But I think I wish I would have realized earlier on that I don't have to care for others at the sacrifice of myself, that I can still matter in the work. And there are other ways that I can care for people where I'm not stepping over myself, exhausting myself, sacrificing myself unnecessarily, burning myself out. I wish I would have made a move sooner.
Yeah. And there's such a culture in any work, like social work, any human facing work in that context that says you should come second and you should make like very little money. And I think you can transfer that to a lot of other like professions and maybe even families where they say, this is what mom made, so this is what I'm going to make, or this is just what we do and stuff. And this is how the profession is.
Yeah.
So not even knowing that there's more beyond, but once you find out, giving yourself permission to take action on what you know.
And there's something to be said for gaining experience. I don't think that I could have stepped into from just graduating college into the role that I now hold. Like it does take experience and a growth of skill set and knowledge and understanding to be able to step into higher paying roles. But even still, at that point, the organization didn't rely on me spending 60 hours a week making $26,000 a year. Like, that's ludicrous. And I was being taken advantage of, but I couldn't see out from under that just water that I felt what I was underneath and drowning in. And once I realized, I think I kept waiting for something to change, but nothing was changing. And I felt this like deep heart cry, like I just want out of this situation. This feels suffocating. And it was also in that very moment that I realized I can leave. I can choose to leave. I can do anything else creative. I don't have to wait for something else to come into place. And I get it that the best time to look for a job is when you have a job. But there were a few things that I was able to kind of line up to give me more security in stepping out. But other things can shift and change around. It's not worth us killing ourselves to be in a job if it is really sucking the life out of us. And that is in a lot of ways the non-traditional living that we chose. We did that so that there could be freedom for Eric to choose what he wanted to do, for me to choose what I wanted to do, even when we weren't making a lot of money, to make space for each other in that way.
Yeah. Something else that we choose to make space for every week is
the Bill of the Week.
That's right. It's time for the best minute of your entire week. Maybe a baby was born and his name is William. Maybe you paid off your mortgage. Maybe your car died and you're happy to not have to pay that bill anymore. Duck bills, Buffalo Bills, Bill Clinton. This is the Bill of the Week.
So this week we will play one of our listeners' Bills of the Week, but also, Jill, we would like you to share your bill for the week.
Okay, well, I'll just go with a bill that I don't mind paying. And that's my bill for gum. I don't get
it's not what I was expecting, but I'm not surprised.
I don't get a monthly bill for gum, although I do get gum monthly, so it feels that way. I've got like my own personal subscription. I love gum. You can't talk me out of it. I eat a lot of gum. My go-to these days, and for a while now, has been extra peppermint. I want to say it's not spearmint. It's the
not
green,
endorsed.
The green pack. No, we're not.
Should they
endorsed.
ever
I'm just
want
telling
to,
you.
we would gladly accept it.
In case you want to take a deep dive, that's what I spend my like $1.50 on.
Yes. Well, yeah, I'm not surprised, but also, yeah, good for you. Okay, let's hear one from our listener.
Okay.
Hi, Jen and Jill. My name is Deanna, and this is my first time calling for the Bill of the Week. My husband and I are excited. We have been planning a trip to Disney World for our kids next year. After listening to one of your episodes, I decided to look into the Disney World credit card and found that they were doing 0% interest for 6 months, and if I paid for our trip using the credit card, I would get $300 off. So I did that, and it has been officially 6 months later, and our trip is completely paid for without any additional interest on the card. Another feature of the card was we got free DoorDash delivery. So my husband and I have been using that 1 to 2 times a month as a date night in once the kids go to bed, and that has been a great feature of the card. I really appreciate all of your podcasts. The fun that you have during the show makes me smile, and I love hearing all of your tips to being frugal and what that entails for, a happy life. Keep it going, and I can't wait to hear more. Thank you.
Oh, yay,
Deanna. I love that these bills of the week are also turning into just like mini encouragement sessions, just like kind words that people are saying to us.
I'll take that.
It's so heartwarming. But also the way that you've hacked this opportunity with a Disney credit card. We're not endorsed by Disney. They make a...
But again, if
they want to,
calling.
Yeah, I'll take your money.
Come at me.
And that's the thing. I think credit cards really can be used in our favor if we can be wise about it, if we know how to take advantage of the perks and not allow them to take advantage of us. So the way that you're utilizing this opportunity sounds so amazing, that you were able to have a really wonderful trip with your family and then regular dates with your husband. Not indoors, at home.
I mean, maybe indoors, outdoors, at home. I know how sacred the time is between when a child goes to bed and you go to bed. Like, that is sacred
holy
time.
ground.
So that's so awesome, Deanna. Yeah, we love travel hacking. I love taking money from specifically Chase Bank, because I know that's where the Disney card is partnered. I just love taking money from them and not giving them anything in return. That's like one of my favorite things to do. So if you have a bill where you have taken something from a big bank and given them nothing in return, or just know a person that you met on vacation named Bill, who knows? You can leave us a bill at frugalfriendspodcast.com/bill.
And now it's time for
Lightning Round. So today, our lightning round that Jill and I will both answer is one habit or practice you did not take with you after paying off your debt. So what's something you did while paying off debt that you no longer do?
This isn't a habit or a practice, but the first thing that comes to my mind is stress. Like, I didn't take stress with me post, at least that's concerning finances.
Okay, you have to have another answer too.
So I could make that more tangible then. I think some of the tenacity towards that debt payoff and what that required of us. So we don't feel the need to go as hard at side hustles as we did before. I'm not constantly thinking up, how can I make money off of this? Or how can someone pay me for this? Or how can I spend the least amount of money on this thing, even if I need it. And that's been a really almost just a beautiful consequence of this and earning more income. So for me, my debt payoff is very interconnected with earning higher levels of income. So sometimes I don't quite know, is what I'm experiencing because I'm debt free, or is what I'm experiencing because we've been intentional about earning more and making more. And maybe it's a combination, but I've not felt the need to tally up everything that I'm purchasing at the grocery store or do bare minimum with every single decision that I make. And some of that is just like moving out of scarcity mindset, moving out of literally financially being in poverty, which I'm so grateful for. So there's just, in some ways, I think it's a habit. It's a thought process, the way that I approach purchases, how I think about them has shifted a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good answer.
Thank you.
Something else that you did not take is living in a trailer.
Yeah, I don't live in a vehicle anymore.
You own a home.
Yes.
Yes.
However, we did live in our trailer for a bit of time post debt freedom. But yeah, that didn't last very long.
Yeah.
We quickly sold it and used that money to buy a house. And it was never the intention for that to be a long-term lifestyle. And I am definitely a proponent of non-traditional living circumstances for a specified goal, that we don't have to do these things. And I think a lot of people looked at us like, oh, you're the tiny home livers. Like that's what you do.
That's your identity.
Yeah. You dwell in tiny homes and that's it. And we did for a time. It was a big part of our lives and what defined us. But we never intended for that to be, this is what we're doing because all of our ideology and outlook is intertwined with this. It helped us a lot in that regard. But anyhow, freedom in that too, that you could do something for a time just to get at another goal.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, and this is going to be a little controversial. It's not the same for Jill, but for me, it's budgeting is a practice that I don't really do often anymore. And some people are going to be really offended by this. But I spent years figuring out how to lower my expenses, control my impulse purchases, raise my income. And I am still constantly aware of those things, constantly aware of impulse buying, efficient ways to increase my income, not like short-sighted ways. And so I am constantly aware of those things. And I do check my accounts monthly to make sure that nobody has hacked me. But I don't really budget anymore. And so there's pros and cons to that. I've never been much of a budgeter. Even so, when we were paying off debt, we did it very strictly every month because we needed to know to the penny. Our income was also lower and a lot more of our money was going towards a short-term goal. And now that it is not, we are doing like renovations on our home, but we have kind of set up our lives and our lifestyles in a way that we can just live on one income and not care about the rest. I mean, not care about it, but like either invest or save the rest. So we just really focus on just spending what we have, because what we have is only half of what we make. So yeah, that is a thing that I did not take with me after. And one of the cons is that sometimes I can get a little anxious about money because I do also love control and I don't have control over every single penny, but I think it's not that serious. Like I have enough other things that I can control and have power in, that this is one of those things that I know I'm confident in the skills I have created, that I really just check to see if anybody's hacked my bank stuff. And we travel hack too. So we're always switching up cards and closing or locking cards. So like that kind of helps with the hacking too. So
you're not alone in what you're describing. I'm hearing more and more people say, I don't budget. And I also think there's a spectrum to that. Just like people talk about retiring early. It's not, for most people, it's not really retiring early. It's whatever they define that to be. And so I think you're defining the way that you manage money. And I think in some ways that is what budgeting is. And because you have so much practice with it, this makes sense for you. I would imagine that you have a very good estimate of your bills and your spending, because like I know you say I don't budget, but I'm sure if I asked you, what are your utilities monthly? What's your mortgage? What's your discretionary spending? What about groceries? What do you typically spend on takeout? Like you would probably be able to rattle that off within a $5 range of accuracy.
That's very, I don't know if I could get $5, but I definitely do know what our bills are and all of that. And like, I don't think you should trust me if I'm on here with this podcast not being able to say that.
Yeah.
You know?
I just like, but just to clarify for people, because I think I love the freedom that's being talked about both in your your experiences and the choices you made, as well as mine, but also the journey to get there. That yes, credit cards can be awesome, but don't use them if they're a downfall for you. Yes, living tiny is awesome, but don't do it if you've got 10 kids or like you live in Alaska, at least an RV. Tiny homes are fine. Yeah, you don't have to budget, but as long as you've got a really good handle on your finances and you have budgeted in the past, you know what that means and you know where your money's going now. So there's freedom, but there's also a skill set and experience to be built in it all as well.
Absolutely.
Whether it's game day, movie night, or just a busy day, it's always time for Papa Murphy's. And now you can get any medium 2-topping pizza for just $6.99. That's right. The whole family can get exactly what they want any day of the week for any occasion. Any toppings, any sauce, only $6.99. Now that's meaty yum. If only everything else in life was like our deal. Order any medium 2-topping pizza for just $6.99 at papamurphys.com.
Are you tired of your scented cleaning products smelling and cleaning like meh? Then it's time for an upgrade with the power of Clorox Scentiva. With an uplifting scent that smells like coconut, Clorox Scentiva gives you powerful clean like Clorox, but a feeling like being transported to a tropical island retreat. Imagine putting your phone on Do Not Disturb, tuning out all the constant, just the feeling of warm sand in between your toes and a fruity drink in your hand. The ones with the little umbrella. Refresh your home to feel like an all-inclusive vacation by getting Clorox Scentiva. Also available in grapefruit and lavender scents at a nearby retail store.
You've probably heard a lot about electrified vehicles lately. Well, Toyota has electrified options for every lifestyle. We've got hybrids, no plug needed.
Let's go.
But we also have plug-in hybrids, if that's your thing. You can even go 100% electric in the Toyota BZ4X. With so many options for reducing carbon emissions, Toyota is electrified, diversified. Learn more about our Beyond Zero vision for the future at toyota.com/Beyond Zero.
Want to teach your kids financial literacy, but not sure where to start? Greenlight can help. With Greenlight, parents can keep an eye on kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens use a card of their own to build money confidence. As a parent, you can send instant money transfers, set up chores, automate allowance, and more. It's a convenient way to run your household, customized to your family's needs, and the easy way to raise financially smart kids. Get started with Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/iHeart.
Why wait for Labor Day to save big on new custom window treatments when you can save up to 45% right now at Blinds.com's Labor Day Early Access Sale? Blinds.com is the better way to shop for custom window treatments. 100% online with upfront pricing and free shipping. No showroom markups, no pushy salespeople in your home. Blinds.com's design experts can help you make the perfect choices with free virtual consultations. Plus, they'll send samples right to your door fast and free. Blinds.com can even handle the measure and installation for you. Unlimited window treatments installed for one low cost. Since 1996, customers have trusted Blinds.com to cover over 25 million windows, all backed by their 100% satisfaction guarantee. Don't miss Blinds.com's Labor Day early access sale, happening right now. Save up to 45%. Up to 45% off for a limited time at Blinds.com. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Jill, happy birthday. I think time has maybe also revealed that you might have paid off more than $56,000. That's another thing is you'd think somebody who has a personal finance podcast and paid off debt would remember.
It just all piled up and I didn't really want to look at it. I just was trying to knock it down, whatever I could. But I recently, in writing the book, I pulled out true numbers. And it was more like $60,000 that we paid off. So I wasn't too far off.
You undersold your accomplishment.
Yeah. The thing too, and I don't know that I had said this in the interview, and I think we've gotten a little bit more bold in the last 2 years in calling it this way, that debt is neutral, that during our debt payoff, we also took on debt. So that's something that we're becoming a bit more open about and recognizing that there are sometimes reasons that we might take on loans. And the landscape has changed so much since 2020. So I paid off our debt. We became debt free at your place.
At our house.
February 2020. We were parked in our RV in your driveway, February 2020. And that is where we became debt free. Super celebratory. And then you all know what happened in March. And the world changed and pricing changed and interest rates changed and the way that we purchased changed. And it didn't feel great, but Eric and I had to take on a loan for a vehicle. We only have one vehicle, but even that we had to buy new because the one that we had previous to that was its brake lines were rusted out. On 3 separate occasions, we were in some very precarious situations, and it was urgent that we get a car. And
you didn't buy a new car. You did buy a used
car.
Yes,
a certified pre-owned, but from a dealership where we had to take out a loan. So there's just been some things that have happened since then that I think also overlay on this debt payoff journey.
We did the same thing. We also became completely debt free besides our house. And then we took out a car loan because we wanted to use that money to renovate the investment property live-in flip that we bought.
Yeah.
So,
but I think having experienced a time of being truly debt free, where we lived in our RV and we owned our RV and all of, my master's and undergrad was paid off. I think having accomplished that was still definitely worthwhile. And having experienced what came after that was worthwhile. But I think one of the things that it revealed to me is, debt is relatively neutral. What's on the other side of it is not nirvana. It's worth pursuing, but it's not the end all be all. And life is going to continue to happen. And there may be times where we have to choose to take on loans with eyes wide open. I think that's the difference is when I took on my student loans, my eyes were not fully open. I didn't know what I was signing up for. But fast forward to I've gone through paying off debt. The landscape is different. We need to make wise decisions for ourselves and our safety. And it's going to require XYZ to do that. And I'm okay with that because I understood what it took to pay it off. I understand what it means to sign up for a loan. I understand what needs to play into a loan decision, what sorts of factors I need to consider in what I'm agreeing to. And eyes wide open, I'm okay with this as we take into consideration our income and other risks and liabilities and all of that. So it's celebratory. I think it's a worthwhile aim, but I think I'm also holding it in tension with now this kind of new removed shame from debt and understanding that sometimes life calls for it when you need the degree now rather than in 50 years, and you need the house now while the kids are young rather than in 50 years, and you need the car now rather than waiting until the brake lines rust out a fourth time and you're in an accident. Like,
yeah. Well, I think that's one of the dangerous things in like content made about debt freedom is that all debt is bad, right? Mm-hmm. Or there's this good debt and bad debt. And housing is always good debt. Student loans are always good debt. Credit cards are always bad debt. And the narrative just, it doesn't make sense anymore. What we should be, it's kind of like trying to tell people they shouldn't have kids when you're not going to teach them about contraception. So it's like you need to know what a loan is. You need to know what an interest rate is. You need to know what the stock market is returning, like with inflation, to know if it's worth keeping a low interest debt. You just can't have the conversation from a mindset of this is all bad if you want to have a complete or a whole conversation. So, I mean, we still use the 7% return on the stock market to kind of calculate our retirement savings. I think after the last couple of years, I think it's safe if you want to use 6%, but everybody I talk to is still using 7 confidently, which accounts for the typical 3% inflation, even though we have not seen that the past couple of years. But this is a small snapshot of a larger picture. And so that means that if your interest rate on your loan is less than 6%, then it can make sense to very evenly balance your debt payoff with your investing. If your interest rate is far lower than 6%, like I know a friend of ours recently, she consolidated her private student loans. Now they're at like 3 or 4%. Or if you were lucky enough to refinance your mortgage in 2021 or thereabouts and got a really low mortgage rate, like then it's beneficial to you to just keep that for as long as you can. So if you are putting more into investing. So it's things like that you need to think about if you're going to have a complete conversation about debt.
Ultimately, I'm grateful for the journey and I'm grateful for where we've come to. And I think for both you and I, Jen, removing the shame from it and being able to make informed decisions on what we do with our resources, how we engage with debt. Debt is neutral, and making it functional and just beneficial for us rather than putting so many labels on things. And if you all are here for this message, wherever you are in your debt payoff journey, if this is resonating with you, and if you want to hear more, we do talk a bit more about this in our book, Buy What You Love Without Going Broke, buywhatyoulovebook.com.
Yes.
We share a whole lot more about this. It is our baby, it is our love letter to all of you. So we'd love if you all pre-ordered that.
And if you were able to make it out to the pre-order launch party, thank you so much for attending. As of recording
What a fun time.
It hasn't happened yet, but we anticipate people will show up.
I know it's going to be a fun time.
And yeah, it's going to be, it was so fun. I anticipate that it was so fun. And thank you for coming. Thank you to everyone who's pre-ordered already. It does make a difference in the effort that our publisher puts into marketing us. So even if you feel like I'm frugal, I don't really need to learn any more about frugality, if you pre-order our book either for a family member or a friend, it helps our publisher put more stock in the book to publicize it to more people who do need it, to tell libraries that it's an important book so more libraries carry it, and it just tells more publishers that this is the kind of financial content that people want, not as much get rich quick, get rich with real estate, invest and become a multimillionaire through stocks and, so, which are all really great. But the personal finance books are definitely missing a lot of not just earning more so we can consume more, but using our money wisely and consuming only what we value. So
buywhatyoulovebook.com.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening. And one of the things we're also so grateful to you all for is those of you who have left such kind reviews, like this one from Natalie Novakatnia. I love your podcast, heart emoji, 5 stars. Thank you for such important topics. You deserve 100 stars here.
Thank you, Natalie.
Short and sweet, and still gives me goosebumps and brings tears.
Oh, man. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to leave a rating and review. I know some of you have even left reviews for the Friendletter in the podcast review, which is totally great. And if you want to say you're excited for the book coming out, you can also leave that a rating and review. We love it. It lets potential listeners know what we're all about.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Frugal Friends is produced by Eric Sirianni.
Okay, Jen, it was just my birthday. I'm 35 now.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, she's choosing me. Oh, did you hear it?
Yes.
There it is. Because it's my birthday.
It's the after show, so we gonna giggle.
Yes.
Get over it.
And I took a page out of our own podcast episode about staycations. You can go back, I don't know, a couple months, maybe a couple weeks. We talked about staycations. Yeah. And we are right now, at the time of this recording, at a hotel on the beach.
Ooh.
Like 15 minutes away from us.
Which hotel?
It is
I guess maybe you shouldn't say it if you are currently there when this episode releases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You'll never guess.
All right. I can't wait to hear.
Yeah. It's a hotel
on a beach.
North of St. Petersburg Beach, St. Pete Beach. And
lovely. What are you hoping to do there?
Well, I am hoping to just invite people to come show up, like yourself.
Deal. I'm there.
It's Friday to Sunday that I'm going to be there. So I'm planning on sending out just an open invite to people with a loose schedule. That schedule is going to be,
oh my gosh,
I'm on the beach. Come
so
join
excited
me.
About that. Oh, wow. Oh, it's like my birthday.
Yeah. Well, that's the goal.
It feels like
that's the goal.
A gift to me.
I feel like my birthday should feel like it's everybody's birthday because we should all just be doing what we love, you know?
Oh, cheers.
So that's what we're doing currently on August 23rd.
We're both going to be there. We're definitely not saying what hotel it's at because we are both going to be there.
Not that anybody's actually listening and hounding us.
But I like to think that we are so important that we cannot give out our real locations in real time.
We could totally. Like, no one would care.
Nobody would show. But I want to think we are so important that we really, for our safety, we can.
Right. Yes. We will have bodyguards.
Yeah, their names are Travis and Eric.
So, all right.
Yes.
That'll be fun.
Whether it's game day, movie night, or just a busy day, it's always time for Papa Murphy's. And now you can get any medium 2-topping pizza for just $6.99. That's right. The whole family can get exactly what they want any day of the week for any occasion. Any toppings, any sauce, only $6.99. Now that's meaty yum. If only everything else in life was like our deal. Order any medium 2-topping pizza for just $6.99 at papamurphys.com.
Zero Foxtrot isn't just a brand, it's a way of life. Founded and operated by veterans, Zero Foxtrot's unique apparel and gear echoes the grit of the warrior culture. Zero Foxtrot dedicates itself to producing content, honoring the sacrifices of forgotten heroes of the past, and connecting history to the present. Embark on a journey with Zero Foxtrot today at zerofoxtrot.com. It's not merely our products, it's about the ethos that we embody. Rugged, resilient, and timeless.
Make this new school year an opportunity for your kids to learn important life skills with Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app for families where kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely, while parents keep an eye on kids' money habits. Greenlight also helps families get into their fall routine with a chores feature that lets parents assign chores and pay kids allowance when they check them off. Get your first month free at greenlight.com/iHeart. Greenlight.com/iHeart.
So, should we go electric?
I think we should go electrified with Toyota.
Electrified?
Electrified means options. Yes, we could go all electric with a Toyota BZ4X, but then there are hybrids like Grand Highlander, or we could do something in between like a RAV4 plug-in hybrid.
So Toyota is electrified diversified?
Yup, and with more options for reducing carbon emissions, the closer we all get to Toyota's Beyond Zero vision for the future.
Exactly how much coffee have you had this morning?
Learn more about our Beyond Zero vision for the future at toyota.com/Beyond Zero.
Overwhelmed by mess in your pickup bed? Upgrade with the decked drawer system. It's completely redesigned. Accommodate more gear in larger drawers. Extend effortlessly and keep your equipment clean and dry. Secure your loads with integrated D-ring tie-downs. Optimize your truck bed space. Proudly made in the USA. Lockable and compatible with any truck from the past 20 plus years. Simple online ordering and easy installation. Visit decked.com/iHeart for free shipping. Get decked. Truck bed storage, toolboxes, and accessories.